That's right, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Friday. Bowser's here in the chat. Let's go, says Bowser. Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go.
Good to
Let's
see
go.
everybody here. Weekly Nintendo News Roundup live each and every Friday night. The All-In crew breaks down the weekend Nintendo news. We're here tonight doing exactly that. Lots to talk about. The big story, I think, of the week is probably LRG3. A lot, kind of low-key, really good.
The top 10 biggest news stories of the week are LRG.
Yeah, there's a lot to dig into just with that, but there's some other stuff to dig into as well. But what we need to dig into first, Eric, is shouting out our patrons.
Absolutely. The Let's Go Club.
The Let's Go Club at patreon.com/allinpodcast. Lots of friends and supporters making the dreams come true over there. Big thanks to everybody who supports us over there, especially our Golden Banana tier supporters like Rob Yapel, Third Strongest Mole, Shano Baggins Ashton, Tim A, aka NeoPrime33, aka Nintendo Dad number 4, Matt Shy Guy City Murray, Phelan Ward, Bill Tucker, Marcus O'Neill, Liam D, Bowza, who's in the chat. Let's go, Bowza, Gamer Jason, and Andrew Wilkins. Big thanks to all of our Golden Banana tier supporters. Moving to our Triforce tier. We need to thank Josh Vaughn, the godfather of Tingle Love Tuesday, John Dat Fast Cummins of the Retro Logic podcast, as well as the On Topic Retro podcast, the Globetrotting Jet Settin' Nintendo Hub and Sparky of the Nintendo Hub right here on YouTube, Adam Caparello of the Retro Groove podcast, as well as Octorock 1982 right here on YouTube, Shy Guy, the other half of our Shy Guy mod squad. Thank you, Shy Guy. Danielina Hosa, Dan and Luma, Solo Something, and the legend himself.
The first round draft pick forever in our hearts, Uncle Randy.
Uncle Randy. That's right, Uncle Randy. Love you very much. Thank you for your continued love and support, everybody. Y'all are making the dreams come true, keeping the lights on. I'm playing Hurt tonight, y'all. I'm not going to lie. I'm playing Hurt tonight, so we're going to try to get through this. I took a fall last night.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, my wife came home last night from her work hitch, and I was moving.
And you fell for your wife all over again. That's so
yeah,
sweet.
I literally fell. I hurt myself pretty bad.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, I fell on the concrete outside and skinned my knee. I haven't skinned my knee in like 20 years. It was pretty rough. It was gnarly, and it's one of those things too where you realize, like, when I was a kid, I used to take injuries like all the time, skateboarding and stuff, and it was like no big deal. But then you're like, I'm so old, dude. Like,
no, it's like how I'll never financially recover from this.
Oh my god, skinned my knee about, like, I don't know, 6 inches down my leg probably. And it was pretty nasty. Got like glass in it and stuff. It was pretty bad. And then also twisted my ankle on the other side. It was rough. So I did not have a good night last night. So playing Hurt today, but I'm trying to keep the energy up, and we're gonna get through it because we do have some fun stuff to talk about. Thankfully, thank God. If this were a light news week, if this was the kind of week where like there wasn't anything going on, I might have been like, "Yo, Eric, let's just call an audible for this week." But I'm here. My knee is wrapped up. My wife nursed me back to health, and we're here doing it, man. It's yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
Absolutely. And quick shout out, I talked about our number one draft pick forever in our hearts, Uncle Randy, but quick piece of housekeeping. We did in fact do the second half of our Nintendo fantasy draft with the Nintendo pals this past week, which is up on your Patron feed right now.
Not yet.
If you are
Not
one
yet.
of
It hasn't
our
hit yet.
Oh, no.
It'll go up
Okay.
tomorrow. Yeah.
Tomorrow, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be up on your Patron feed tomorrow. Definitely be on the lookout for that. Things are getting very, very interesting here in the second half of the year. So make sure and go ahead and check that out. If you're not a patron, you can get access to that for just $1.
Yeah, or free.
$1.
There's a 7-day free trial to the Golden Banana tier. So, I mean, you can literally get in for free if you want and hear the second round draft picks, and also get some information on the punishments for the Fantasy Critic League against the Nintendo Pals. A lot of fun. Yeah, that'll hit tomorrow. I wanted to time it around the release of the episode because, of course, we have All In Nintendo podcast drops on Saturdays. So y'all patrons will get that tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. But Eric, plenty of news to get into, my friend. LRG3
Absolutely.
is a thing. Shall we get into it?
Yes, I think we should get into it because that's one heck of a rabbit hole. So let's go ahead and jump down face first. Let's talk about it.
Hey, Listen.
All right. Navi said the thing. We're here. Hey,
We've
listen.
done the thing.
We've done it. Where do you want to start? Where do you want to start with this? I'll let you kind of guide us, man, because there's so much to get into here.
Yeah, it is. I mean, typically when it comes to news, you want to hit like the biggest headline first.
Yeah.
But with LRG3 this year, honestly, it's hard to really determine what the biggest headline of the show was. I do want to open with this thing though, and me being the the nearly psychotic, obsessive physical indie collector that I am, I was probably going to buy 90% of the stuff shown off at this show anyway. But admittedly, the limited run games, especially with the recent departure of Douglas Bogart,
Right.
and kind of the long-standing issues that they've had with shipping things out in a timely manner, I do feel like, as big as LRG is, that they kind of had something to prove with the show. I really feel like they did. And I was still excited to see it. I was excited to see what potential new products were going to get their long-awaited physical releases. I was interested to see whether or not they were actually going to try to convince us that Plumbers Don't Wear Ties is going to come out. It's not.
Yeah,
but
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But I just I really have to commend them for this show. There were a few things this year that made it feel like LRG3 could have kind of fallen on its face a little bit, but it turned out, and I think you and I are in agreement on this, I think it's like their best presentation they've ever done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any question. For me, like, I've been kind of disenfranchised with LRG in recent years, not only because of everything you've just said, but it's also, even previous LRG3s, I haven't been all that crazy about it. I'm still a fan. Like, I've given them a lot of money, certainly. But I kind of don't collect, like, I try to be more stringent with my collecting and stuff, and especially after,
which is fine, which is fair. Yeah,
especially after long shipping times and stuff, I kind of fell off them a little bit, but I've always kind of been a distant fan. Friends that are from there and stuff, and like you said, Douglas has been on the show. I like them, but it's been kind of like from a distance, and so coming into this, I was a little bit like, is this going to be anything? Is this just going to be kind of like a bunch of, hey, here's, some physical stuff that's coming, like some more junk that you don't need or whatever.
Here's Indie Game 37 that we're going to publish. Here's Indie Game 38 we're going to publish,
Yeah, and like, not only that, I haven't really been super crazy about the sort of, like, I don't know, presentation of LRG3s in the past. They've kind of felt like Diet Devolver Digital a little bit in the past.
Yeah. I did admittedly really dig last year's like CDI FMV style.
Yeah,
I thought that it was fun and it was cute. Yeah, I dug it.
It was cute, but even that, like, for me, kind of overstayed its welcome by the end of it. But this, I gotta admit, like, the framing of it was really clever, really well done, like, well executed, and just the sheer amount of announcements here, and like major announcements here that are far beyond just, hey, we're gonna offer this game physically, is really impressive. Really strong showing, like, well done to LRG. And I gotta admit too, credit where it's due, they sort of made the promise of like, hey man, like, we're making these moves and these moves to mitigate a lot of our production time and to make sure you get your games faster. And credit where it's due, it's working. There are people who are, I don't have mine yet, but people are already reporting that they've got Night in the Woods in. So, like,
nice.
That's a quick turnaround. That pre-order went up in, I think, January. So, like, people are getting it within 6 months. So, like, that's pretty cool, man. It's nice to see the proof in the pudding. So good on them. Shout outs to them.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I mean, honestly, you could just kind of throw a dart at a dartboard when it comes to everything that was announced. I think for a lot of people, when it comes to gaming media in general, the big headline that I saw get thrown around was the last one, the OMT, which they literally called the One More Thing.
Yeah.
To finally save E3 2023, the One More Thing was the old Gex trilogy coming back to modern consoles, and that for many outlets was kind of the big headline that they used for LRG3 and everything going on. And I am excited about Gex coming back. I think it's really cool the way they framed it. to make it look like it was something regarding GoldenEye or James Bond in general, I thought was kind of clever. But if you know anything about the Gex franchise or the Gex trilogy, that's completely on brand for what they were going for. I think one of the games was actually called like Deep Cover Gecko.
Something like
Uh,
that. Yeah.
yeah, Undercover Gecko, Deep Cover Gecko. But yeah, Gex was like the most 90s character ever. I can't wait to see all the incredibly like decades long dated pop culture references.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll look forward to
But
playing that. Yeah.
I am too. I am too. But of course, Gex wasn't the only thing. There was actually a lot of classic games coming back and some that we're really, really excited about. We did hear about Jurassic Park a
Mhm.
while back. They basically, uh, for all intents and purposes, announced the Jurassic Park collection and said that we'd be getting more info about it. We got a little bit more info about that here, but we do know that we are going to be getting Jurassic Park, the NES, Super Nintendo, and Game Boy version of the first Jurassic Park, and then was it Jurassic Park Total Chaos or something?
Yeah.
Jurassic Park 2, T-Rex Terror or whatever
Mhm.
it's called. We're getting the Super Nintendo and Game Boy version of that. So a nice little 5-game uh, Jurassic Park collection. I'm just excited for the original game SNES version, which I used to own back in the day anyway.
Nice.
Um, but that got announced. Gargoyles Remastered, which isn't just going to be a port of one of these older games. We didn't
Yeah.
really see too much about Gargoyles Remastered though, but it is being called Gargoyles Remastered, so probably not going to look exactly like a 16-bit pixel art game. But that and a few other announcements, they kind of centered around this idea of this carbon engine that they've been
Right.
using to bring retro games into the modern era. And it makes me excited to see what other plans they have for that, because they really touted this. Like, they actually showed off the carbon engine as its own essential announcement. It was like, hey, we've got this new platform now that we're going to continue to use to bring back a lot of stuff. Because one of the things about LRG that you absolutely have to give them not necessarily credit for, but one of the things you can absolutely say about the company at large is they are always trying to go after like the deep nostalgia hits.
Yeah.
Um, and I am excited to see what that has to offer. But in terms of games that I'm excited about, I mean, just again, throw a dart at a dartboard. Clock Tower, I can't wait. But honestly, I kind of feel like I'm rambling at this point. Where do you want to stop for a second?
Well, yeah. So I mean, the carbon engine, I think, is maybe the biggest thing to hit on here, because like individual
Probably, yeah.
announcements, like there's a lot of like really cool individual announcements. You already touched on like the Jurassic Park Classic Games Collection. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Pre-orders for that are opening
Hold
on
on to your
September
butts.
1st. Yeah, hold on to your butts. Gargoyles Remastered, even though we didn't see anything about it, is coming this fall apparently. So we should be seeing more about that soon. But the Carbon Engine is this new initiative from them, headed by MVG, Modern Vintage Gamer, who's a well-known sort of programmer and has worked with LRG for a little while now.
Hmm.
And it's this new system that uses emulation as a base to make it easy, apparently, to port old games, with emulation over to modern platforms. So this could be huge. This is the kind of thing that, if they have this thing in place and developers get on board, this could be a massive boon to, get these long lost games. I mean, some of the games that we're already seeing benefit from this, I mean, if you had told me that Gex was going to be here, before the thing started, I wouldn't have believed you.
It's like, that's the fakest leak I've ever seen.
Yeah, that seems crazy to me. Even beyond that, like something like Tomba, you
Yeah.
know, being like kind of, I don't know if it's supposed to be like a full remaster or something or what they're doing with it, but the fact that Tomba is coming back is wild to me. So like if this stuff is allowing for these kind of like long lost, and a lot of these games, by the way, are hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
So like you can now affordably, legally, have access to these games in the modern age, and working with LRG, you've also got the avenue to have them physically. Like it's really cool, man. It's a really neat initiative, and I hope it works out well.
I do too. Obviously, this past week, that massive study came out from the Video Game History Foundation, specifically in regards to the percentage of games that are being preserved and that modern gamers have access to, and it is, of course, a depressingly low
Yes.
percentage. Um, Specifically, they said 87% of older guys. I can't remember the exact nomenclature, but essentially less than uh, 1 in 5
Yeah.
of games is now, is still available in some way, form, or fashion, legally at least.
Hmm.
So stuff like this is exciting, not just for the sake of people who like to play them, but just for the sake of preservation. But another super exciting thing, I think, in addition to the Carbon Engine and the games that we could potentially see brought back, another big exciting thing that LRG is doing is they're allowing games to be finished.
Right. Yep.
And Way Forward, I already mentioned Clock Tower very briefly. Way Forward had a pretty strong presence at this show. Their biggest announcement was very arguably the fact that this lost chapter of Shantae Advance, that they tried to pitch 2 decades ago as an actual Game Boy Advance game, Matt Bozon, the mastermind behind Shantae, thankfully kept all his work, kept all the assets, and here 2 decades later, with LRG's help, they are actually completing this lost chapter in Shantae's history and bringing that to an actual GBA cartridge. We haven't been with, there's no confirmation yet on whether or not that's going to translate to modern consoles, but at the very least, the fact that these old, lost, unfinished games are now under this umbrella being able to be completed. Like, well, admittedly, one of my first thoughts was something like Primal Rage 2.
Right.
Uh, but if that's a possibility now through LRG and Way Forward and these other companies that are all kind of working together in consortium now, that's also incredibly exciting, because as gamers, we have all felt a very big sting from something that we were incredibly excited about being unceremoniously canceled by the developer or the publisher for whatever reason. Just looking at you, Seth, one of the things that immediately comes to my mind is Mega Man Legends 3.
Yeah.
So I'm not even remotely suggesting that Capcom and LRG are going to work together to bring Mega Man Legends 3 anytime soon, despite the fact that Capcom is also working with them on this Clock Tower project. But just the possibility that maybe a couple more unfinished games from yesteryear could potentially one day see the light of day. That also makes me really happy, and I'm super excited for Way Forward and them finally being able to finish this. I'm sure that's incredibly satisfying for Matt and for everybody involved.
Yeah. It's a really cool announcement, man. The idea that, yeah, we can go back and finish these things that we've always wanted to. And like Shantae Advance, it's called Risky Revolution. This is an interesting one because pre-orders open in September. It's coming early 2024. They have
Mhm.
not actually confirmed a digital release so far. The only thing they've confirmed is that it's going to be coming physically to Game Boy Advance.
Yep.
So it's a physical cart. It's going to run on original hardware, and that is how you're going to play it, at least as far as we know. Now, I'm sure they're going to release it digitally eventually. That's what they did when they gave the same treatment to the first Shantae game.
To the original Shantae, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I imagine the same thing will happen here, but that's all we know about so far. But it's a really neat initiative, and to your point, I mean, like, something like a Primal Rage 2 isn't off the table anymore. You know what I mean? Like, that's no longer off the table. They have the means to make these things happen thanks to the Carbon Engine and thanks to the growing influence that LRG has and the connections that they've made over the course of the years that they've been in service. Now that kind of stuff is even possible from a logistical standpoint. It's really just a matter of getting in touch with the right contacts and, getting the ink on the paper. So it's really cool. Like that's the most exciting thing about all of this. And just to circle back to Clock Tower for a second too, like that is another, again, very prohibitively expensive, obscure Japanese only Super Nintendo game that WayForward is remastering in some way. We saw a little bit of the remastered artwork.
Yes, we did see a little bit of the key art.
Yeah.
Some of the animators who are working on, I guess, new animated cutscenes, a la something like Chrono Trigger and the treatment that got. I imagine it's going to be something similar to that, but
Mm-hmm.
we still have a little bit more information to find out about. But regardless, yeah, they're working on remaking, remastering, rejigging.
Bless
Excuse
you.
me. I'm sorry, I'm allergic to awesome announcements, folks. Um, but they are rejigging, they're remastering, they're in some way. I honestly would have been happy just with a translation, frankly.
Right.
But this is clearly a passion project for a lot of people involved. There's a lot of big companies working together to bring this version of the game to the West. And this is kind of the third prong of stuff that's incredibly exciting. You have these old games that could come back, which Clock Tower also falls into. You have these old games that are unfinished that could potentially see the light of day, like Shantae Advance, but also you have these games that have never been localized in some regions and some markets
Mm-hmm.
that also seems like it might be a focal point of LRG's initiatives in the future. So maybe we could see, stuff like Sweet Home on the NES, or maybe we could
Yeah.
see other, Rule of Rose was something that I saw a few people
Yep.
throw around. So maybe we could see more of something like that in the future as well. So old games coming to modern platforms, old games that never got the chance to be finished, maybe being finished, and games that never got localized in certain markets, maybe getting a little bit more of a global footprint. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a very, very exciting time.
Yeah, really cool, man. That was certainly, some of the big announcements related to the Carbon engine and just the sheer possibilities that allows. But looking at some of I'm curious what because you're a really big physical collector. I like to
I
collect
am,
physical
yes.
too, but you're the biggest physical collector I know.
Yeah.
Except for maybe like Barry Carenza, who I think
Yeah,
has a
Barry, yeah.
complete Switch collection, which is wild to me.
Barry and like
Um,
JP, who actually, I mean, but he works at
yeah,
LRG, so I mean,
I mean, these guys are on another level. But in my personal life, you're the biggest physical collector I know.
yeah,
So obviously, Chicory getting a physical is a big
of
deal for
course.
us.
Absolutely.
That's that's one where even I'm
You
like,
were
yeah, that's
you,
day
you
one.
were live reacting to it, and you
Yeah,
still texted me like Chicory.
yeah, yeah. No, that's day one. I'm
A
definitely
thousand. Oh yeah,
definitely getting that. I'm hopeful that they'll do like some kind of cool collector's edition for
exactly.
it.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
was thinking. Like a pizza plush, or
yeah,
maybe some type of like that. They've got to put like a coloring book or like a
something like
watercolor
that.
or
Yeah,
something in the collector's edition. They've got to.
paintbrush. Yeah.
Exactly. They've got to.
Yeah, I hope so. So that's exciting. We don't know when that's going to happen. I think another really exciting physical was the Castlevania Advance collection, which they actually
Yeah.
opened with,
Yeah,
which
that
was
was the very
cool.
first announcement. I'm super excited for that.
Yeah.
When Konami announced the Castlevania collection, I knew that a physical was eventually coming down the pipeline. Konami hasn't really been too big on doing their own physical collections, but they have actually been working with LRG for quite some time now.
Right.
Limited Run Games has published, that matter of fact, they've already published a Castlevania collection. In
Mm-hmm.
addition to that, they've done Contra and they've done a few other things. So I figured this was coming down the pipeline. And for those who haven't played those Castlevania games from the GBA, they are
Yeah, they're excellent.
amazing. They
Yeah.
are amazing. Those are really like the spiritual, not even the spirit, those are the true successors to stuff like Symphony of the Night.
Yeah. Yeah,
So if
they're
you haven't
excellent.
checked those out, make sure to. But I was super excited for that. That's a day one for me. Can't wait.
Yeah. The pre-orders for that open on the 28th, so in 2 weeks. From the time of this recording, you'll be able to pre-order that. Some of the other physicals announced were Colossal Cave, which is the Ken and Roberta Williams
Yeah,
text adventure that they recently made into this like weird, like honestly janky looking
yeah,
PS2
it
era
does.
looking thing. But I like that it exists. I'm happy that
I
it
do too.
exists.
Yeah. Colossal Cave is an old, like
Text
pioneer
adventure.
game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like people rode on the Oregon Trail with copies of Colossal Cave in their wagons.
Yeah.
But it wound up getting a recent, I say remaster. I mean, it does kind of look like a PS2 game, so calling it a remaster is kind of funny. But
I mean, hey.
I am glad it exists as well. There's a weird part of me that wants to own it just for the sake of the historic value that the game does hold. I mean, I'm sure even playing the game in its remastered form would be an interesting experience, to say the least. But again, I appreciate it as the amateur video game historian that I am. I appreciate it for what it was and what it meant to this industry. So I am glad to see that LRG is throwing some love at it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're making some money off of it too. So
yeah, it's neat. You know, I'll wait to hear your thoughts on it whenever you play it. I'm good on that for now.
That's fair.
In terms of other physicals, though, I'll say this: there is a game that that I had never heard of before. This Dungeons of Aether. I'd never heard of this before, but it's getting a physical. Pre-orders for that are now live for the physical version of that game. I gotta admit, that trailer, I was like, yo, this game looks really cool.
Yeah, it does. Apparently it's a spinoff of Rivals of Aether, which I guess is a platform fighter or something.
And I hear that's good too. There was somebody in our community that was like, yo, other than Smash, this is probably the best platform fighter, at least in their opinion. I'm like, whoa, that's like high praise, man. I think I've heard the title Rivals of Aether, but that's it. Like I've never actually like seen it. And like, man, just the pixel art was gorgeous. The sprite work, the animations, the music was really good. It's kind of like a dice-based like dungeon crawler, which doesn't do a lot for me, but the just the vibes of it, man, like the look and the feel.
The combat just looked absolutely stunning. Yeah. Just really, really good pixel art aesthetic. Admittedly, the top-down dungeon didn't immediately get me. A lot of the movement looks like you just kind of immediately teleport from room to room. It's like, what room do you want to go into next? You hit the direction of that room and you immediately teleport into that room. Yeah, kind of like a board game. The movement's not necessarily fluid, so that kind of threw me off at first. But once they started showing some of the combat, I was like, yo, this is pretty as heck.
Looks good, man. And the
character designs, very well. Yeah,
the character designs are like striking, man. Like they're really, really strong. I don't know. I was quite impressed by that, to the point where I looked at the eShop listing. It's on sale right now. Thinking about grabbing it.
That's the whole point of the spinoff, is like, yo, this is really cool. Oh, it's a spinoff of this game. Let me check that game out now.
Yep.
It's the whole point. And it got me to look at Rivals of Aether too. So it's doing its job. You know, it's doing its job very well. But yeah, it looks really cool. I'll be very interested to get my hands on that in the future.
Yeah, I want to check that out. Midnight Fight Express is getting a physical release via LRG. We don't know when that's happening, but that's a thing that is coming. To be honest, that game doesn't do much for me. Like
that's fair.
Every time I've seen a trailer for it, I don't know. It's not hitting for me personally. It's like this kind of top down, kind of Hotline Miami-ish, but it's got this like 3D aesthetic. I don't know. I'm sure it's fine. I've not heard any like bad things about it, but I've not heard any good things about it either. You know, so
fair enough. I'm low key excited about Roller Coaster Tycoon 3.
Yeah,
it's been a long time since I've played like a park management sim or anything like that. Honestly, I think the last one I might have played was like an old PC Dino Park Tycoon.
Yeah.
So I'm like low key excited about the Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, but I don't know. Maybe that's just the Switch effect. But
maybe my wife and I played Zoo Tycoon on the Xbox One.
Oh, did you really?
Which I think was an Xbox One like launch title or something like that. Like it was one of those things where we had an Xbox One and we were just like desperate for something to play on it. So we got Zoo Tycoon, man, and we had some fun with that. But other than that, like in terms of Roller Coaster Tycoon, the first one I think is the last one that I played. So to have this apparently being a thing, that's cool. It's called the Complete Edition too, so I assume they must have made some like DLC for it or something, and this
Yeah,
has
it was kind of a blink and you miss it section of the trailer, but there were
Yeah,
multiple pieces of DLC they did confirm that were included in the package.
nice.
So, so I
Cool.
like that'll be fun if you've been if none of the sim games on the Nintendo Switch are really doing it for you. Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 should be an interesting little mix up to what you're typically seeing on the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
One that I know that you're really excited for is El Shaddai. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe that we got an announcement for that. This is an old Xbox 360. Like, even by cult classic standards, this was a cult classic. This was not
Yeah.
a very widely known game. I was surprised that anybody seeing this had any clue what that game was. You and I knew, you much
Yeah.
more so than me. I was aware of the game at least, but this is actually a game you've played before.
There was a time when I worked at GameStop, there was a time of my life where whenever a new like game would come out, if we got it and if it was cheap, I would just buy it. And if
Mhm.
it was like if we got it used, I would check it out or whatever. There's a checkout system for
Yeah.
GameStop employees, or at least there
Yep.
was when I worked there. I don't know if they still do that or not. But I just played like as much as I possibly could in that era, and it was A, because I took my job too seriously for being a GameStop employee, but B, because I just really loved video games. I just wanted to play everything. So this game, I don't remember if it released this way or if it just very quickly hit this price point, but it came out at $20, and I was intrigued enough. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna buy it. $20, brand new. And it is a really neat, weird, kind of like side-scrolling hack and slash beat 'em up sort of thing. But
Hmm.
it is like the whole thing, like it is structured around like biblical tales, which El Shaddai might tip you off to. But it's also got this weird like sci-fi Final Fantasy kind of like vibe to it. But you go to these different realms, and again, these are based on like biblical characters and locations, and the art style is like dramatically different for each one. I believe there is if I'm remembering correctly, and I think we saw a clip of it in the trailer very briefly. There is a realm that is ruled by one of the deities is like a hot dog, and it's just another
Like you
one of
do.
those games. Yeah, yeah, it's really cool though, and this is one of those like this is the kind of thing, this is gonna sell like two copies, and they'll probably be just you and I. So
Probably.
I'm
Yeah.
it's interesting and cool that this is getting brought up to the modern age at all, because nobody has played this one, man. I've never met another person that's played this ever. So yeah, so it's cool, man.
Yeah, this is exactly what I was talking about with LRG digging deep
It's a deep
into
cut.
the yeah, digging deep into the obscure titles that they want to bring back. I mean, speaking of, I mean, again, do we have any confidence whatsoever that Plumbers Don't Wear Ties is actually going to release? This is literally the third year in a row they've announced them releasing this game. Is like this has got to be just a running joke at this point.
I think it's gonna happen. I think so. They say they dated it. They say September is when it's gonna happen. But I think what it is I think the holdup has been that they've taken the production much higher than they initially expected. Because I think when they first announced it, they were like, "We're just gonna remaster this or whatever." But now they're getting like interviews and like all this extra content that they've baked into it. And especially in the age of COVID, it's probably hard to schedule stuff like that, let alone edit it and produce it. So I think
Yeah.
that's probably been why the delays. And yeah, I think it's real, man. I think it's gonna come. But I also, to your point, would not be the least bit shocked if on August 31st they said, "Oh, sorry, delayed." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
But just to touch on something that you just kind of glossed over for a second, one of the things that I did really like about this show in general was one of the nice added features to LRG3 this year was the fact that it wasn't just, trailer MC talks for a second. By the way, Josh Fairhurst was the MC, of course.
yeah,
Um, they actually had, like, we had some nice little sit down interviews with the developers and producers and a lot of the people working on these games, and they got to say for themselves how much it meant. Like Matt Bozon got to say how much it meant to him to be able to bring Shantae Advance, to be able to finally bring that to completion. When it came to
Yeah.
Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, they talked to several people about that game, and in what I've got to imagine were completely faux interviews. Uh, that are just trying to sell us on the charade at this point.
Who knows? Maybe.
Another thing they did was they actually had a couple of those for another game that they showed off. Another one that I'm very excited for, Karateka from Digital
Yes.
Eclipse. This idea of an interactive documentary about this 40-year-old game, Karateka, and it looks really, really interesting. Essentially, Digital Eclipse is taking their Atari 50 approach to this game and just really honing in on this single title. But they're using this. We found out about this Karateka project the day before Digital Eclipse officially announced it as part of what they are calling the Gold Master series. This is not going to be just a single one and done project. They have apparently plans for more and more. We don't know how many more, but enough that they specifically decided to call it a series, its own thing. And I will say, tweets from Digital Eclipse and from Stephen Frost mentioned that working with LRG is specifically something that they've wanted to do, and something that they were excited to finally get the opportunity to do. And we've already seen how incredibly passionate and the painstaking detail that Digital Eclipse goes into for their collections. I mean, just look at Atari 50 and the Cowabunga collection. The Atari 50 is immaculate. It's absolutely immaculate. And I'm incredibly excited to see what their idea of this interactive documentary is. This, somewhat new approach to actually playing a game, because again, us being kind of the amateur historians we are, being able to play a game while learning about its significance and being able to appreciate its significance and its impact, the history and the development and all the trials and tribulations therein, that's just so cool to me, because we occasionally see games that release with DVD extra style features and vignettes and stuff like this, but we've never seen something like this from Digital Eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot wait to see what that looks like from those guys.
Yeah, they're the masters. There's no second place. Nobody does it like Digital Eclipse. They are at the top of their craft, and they're better now than they've ever been. They're making incredible collections. And this Gold Master series, Karateka is just the first one. They said in the press release that they're announcing another one later this year. So we don't know what that'll be. We don't know when that'll come. The making of Karateka is actually supposed to release this summer, so we should be getting an official release date on that in the coming weeks, hopefully. So that's going to be great, man. And honestly, for people who've been listening to our shows lately, we've been a little bit, as the kids say, Jordan Mechner pilled lately. We've been covering a lot of Jordan Mechner stuff, and Jordan Mechner's come up again and again and again. So it's a little bit interesting that his first game now is going to be kind of given the limelight, and it's going to be something that we can really chew on and learn about and and chat about on our show. So I'm really excited.
That's true. We just a few weeks ago did a retrospective on Prince of Persia. So
yep,
go ahead and check that out if you haven't. Yeah,
talking about that. Like we talked about Lunark on the main show last week.
Yeah.
I mean, like we've been talking about Jordan Mechner quite a lot here lately. So it's really cool to get this. Really excited for this.
Yeah, and there's a game, kind of like, I'm morbidly interested in Colossal Cave and you're kind of waiting for my thoughts. Yeah. There's a game that you're morbidly interested in, and I'm just kind of waiting for your thoughts. And it has to do, and I can't believe I'm saying this, with Jane Austen.
Yeah. Yeah, Jane Austen is an element of the Rose and Camellia collection. Another element is Punch-Out. Another element further is slapping. So it's essentially Jane Austen slap out is basically what you would call it. rather than Mike Tyson's Punch Out. And just the trailer of this was so wonderful and silly and goofy. Evidently, these games have been out on mobile for a little while, but they're fully, bringing it over to Switch, full Joy-Con motion support, so you'll be able to physically slap. And I am very interested in this. We don't know when it's coming, but it just looks so fun. Like, just the dialogue was so goofy and fun, and just, oh, I will dodge your slaps with ease, and I don't know. I am interested in this one for sure.
Yeah. I I will wait to see your reaction with very bated breath. That's what I'm going to say. I will wait to see your reaction with very bated breath. I thought it was a new game. Actually, I didn't realize that it had been released on mobile
Yeah.
platforms before.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I wasn't familiar with it before, but I guess it's two games that have been on mobile devices, I guess, for a while, and now finally getting put over to console.
Yeah. But I mean, just to give you an idea of how incredible the breadth of the announcements from LRG3 was, in addition to getting old games, in addition to getting unfinished games, in addition to getting newly localized games, in addition to getting ports of games for mobile, we did actually get a couple new game announcements, and boy, do they look nice.
There's some really good ones. I will say, and this is maybe in the same sort of vein as something like the Rose and Camellia collection. I'm very, very excited that This Way Madness Lies is coming to Switch. That game has been on my radar for years now at this point, and ever since really like falling in love with Zeboyd Games' games.
Yeah.
Cosmic Star Heroine, Cthulhu Saves the World, Cthulhu Saves Christmas,
Yeah.
all really good stuff. And hearing that he was making a turn-based JRPG set in the world of Shakespeare with magical girls, I'm just like, yeah, I'm sold. I was sold, the second you said it. And it came out late last year for PC, and it's finally coming to Switch July 25th. LRG is publishing. I imagine a physical is coming soon as well for that, but July 25th is when the digital version releases on Switch, and I cannot wait.
Don't some of these announcements just feel like they were written with Mad Libs?
Yeah. AI generated announcements. Yeah, chat
It's
GPT.
like, all right, Punch Out style game with Jane Austen and Mike.
Yeah.
Magical Girl meets Shakespeare. It just feels like
man.
some. But like even unreleased games, there's a couple that you and I just heard about at LRG that are already like very high up in our queue, already deeply ingrained in our radar. I absolutely want to check out Double Shake when it comes out. It looks amazing. It looks really good. It is very, very clear homage to stuff like Klonoa, stuff like Mischief Makers, which they came right out and said in the trailer.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're absolutely hitting the nail on the head when it comes to the vibe, the aesthetic, the feel of those old games. And for those who haven't played them, well, Klonoa, the Fantasy Reverie series, is on the Nintendo Switch. So if you'd like to check that out, you can, but you might just have to take our word for it because it's not available on the Switch right now. But Mischief Makers also is a really rad game. I hope it does come to the Nintendo Switch in 64 NSO. But definitely two games to take inspiration from, and it looks really cool.
Looks great. They've just totally nailed like the visual aesthetic, the gameplay. You can tell from watching 2 seconds of that trailer. If you're a fan of the games that this game is taking inspiration from, you're like, yep, that looks right. Immediately it's like, yep, they did it. That looks right. Even in the name. For those who don't know, Mischief Maker's whole thing, Shake Shake, is basically the catchphrase, the slogan of Mischief Makers. So to call this game Double Shake, I mean, they understood the assignment. No clue when it's coming out. The trailer said pre-alpha, so it's early days for this one, and it's likely sometime next year. But still, very, very excited for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Another new game that we just heard about for the first time this past week. Another throwback to consoles of old, another action platformer that's absolutely nailing the vibe of consoles of years past. I mean, just RZ, man.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Arzette, the Jewel of Fairmore. Instead of taking inspiration from the Nintendo 64 and the PlayStation, this one very boldly taking inspiration from the Philips CDI. And I love it for that. I really do.
Me too. I love that people love this so much. Like Philips CDI, those Zelda games, Hotel Mario, they're famously bad, right?
Yeah.
But like there is a passionate fan of everything has got a passionate fan base. Everything. Everybody is a fan of something. And like when you can just see that they are intentionally baking in these rough edges and like this kind of ugly like MS Paint looking visual style cutscenes. Like there's so much like that is another form of like loving craft. It's one thing to look at like we saw this game. I don't even want to try to pronounce it. The Scarlet
Yeah.
Symphony game,
Yeah.
which is very clearly like a very laborious pixel art Castlevania looking thing. Looks really cool, but
Yeah.
like you look at that and it's like, yeah, that's lovingly crafted. So is something like Arzette. Like the amount of passion baked into that is just like like that's what I'm there for. Like I don't have any like personal fondness for the Philips CDI, but like I love that they love it. And like that is so infectious to me that this became, the most exciting announcement for me. I thought they were going to do it. I genuinely thought the
Oh
way
my
they were
God.
framing it, they made it seem like
They
maybe
really did.
yeah. Maybe, but no. This is the next best thing to getting the actual, Zelda CDI games.
It is. And honestly, to see people genuinely excited about RZ, I know
Yeah,
this is going to be kind of a weird stretch, but it reminds me of Hayden Christensen coming back to Star Wars.
sure.
After
Yeah.
everybody loved to dunk on the prequel trilogies and they loved to dunk on Hayden Christensen's acting and, it's bad this and worst this and, blah, blah, blah. Just decades of just mudslinging, but he comes back for Obi-Wan and he comes out and everybody just loses their mind. They couldn't be happier to see him return to the franchise after, because I guess you could just say that absence makes the heart grow fonder. You could say that enough time had passed that people were slowly trying to come around to the charm
Sure.
of, stuff like that. And that I kind of feel something similar is happening here with Arzette, that people have, after so many years, kind of come around to, the charm and the quaint technical invitations of something like the CDI, and seeing something in the CDI vein is now really cool, really novel, and people are genuinely excited for it. And I'm genuinely excited to see people genuinely excited for it.
Yeah. I mean, like to see, somebody painstakingly, this is not, it's not like this is like cheap to do. There's a team of people who are painstakingly animating this game that is paying homage to an era of gaming that most people hate. It
Yeah.
reminds me of something like Hypnospace Outlaw.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
the amount of like love and craft and time and detail to make something that is ugly and outdated. Like I love that. Like I love that somebody out there cares so much about this, almost universally maligned thing that's like no, and good on LRG for picking it up. Like it's such
Yeah.
a great get, and I think for many people this was like a highlight of a stacked show, you know.
Well, for a company that's still trying to convince us about plumbers don't wear ties and has published stuff like Night Trap in the past, they were always going to be all over something like this. But honestly,
Really good.
there was another game that even showed off in its trailer the digitized actors that it was using in the game, and that was, I believe, the second announcement of the show, which was this Rise of the Triad Ludicrous edition that
Right.
frankly I thought looked like the Doom sequel that I just never heard about.
I'd never heard of
But
it either. Looks cool though.
yeah, it does look really cool. It is, I mean, we talk about these pitch perfect vibes. Double Shake perfectly nails the whole Mischief Makers Nintendo 64 vibe. RZ is completely nailing the whole Philips CDI vibe. And this game, Rise of the Triad, is, I mean, it just absolutely nails that old Doom Wolfenstein look to it. Thankfully, we still have, modern aspect ratios to it, but it really, really looks like just some forgotten Doom sequel that looks like it was just never finished or something. And even during the trailer, like I was talking about, they actually showed some of the process of digitizing the actors and the enemies and some of the foot soldiers into the game in their different poses and stuff like that. So I thought that was a really cool, quick, kind of inside baseball look at the game as well.
Yeah, so this game, this is apparently like this is a real thing from 1995. I'd never heard of it. This
I
Rise
never
of the
heard of it
Triad.
either.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
real game. But the thing is like, yeah, it's been lost for a minute. They did a remake in 2013, but the original game has been lost since 1995 evidently. So they're bringing it back, and it's coming out digitally at least at the end of the month, July 31st. So and this is being done by Night Dive Studios, who's kind of known for bringing stuff like this over. They've been really good about that. They did the Turok ports were done by them.
Yeah, those are good
System
ports
Shock,
too.
Shadow Man remastered, the Doom ports.
Oh yeah.
That's been done by them. So they're really good about this. They're really
Yeah, that's
good
the
about,
studio you want doing that then.
Exactly. Yeah. So this looks like it's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
And it's coming out July 31st, at least digitally. So
I'll
yeah.
be checking that one out. I'll definitely
Yeah,
be
man.
checking that one out. It looks really, really cool. Again, if you like those old games, those old arcade style first person shooters from the 90s, this should definitely be on your radar. Yeah, can't wait for that one to come out. There were a couple other games. You already talked about one of them. There was another one that honestly, I'm not going to try to. Well, you know what? I'll go ahead and try to pronounce Kyukyoko Tiger Heli Collection.
Yeah. Sure. It's some shmups.
Yeah,
You know.
shmup stuff. I dig shmups.
Yeah.
You guys know I like shmups, so I might check it out.
Yeah, it looks cool. There's also and pre-orders are now live for the physical version of this Odin Cat's Paradise collection, which is a collection of 2 games, Fishing Paradiso and Bear's Restaurant, which when they started the trailer with Bear's Restaurant, I was like, is this like a Bear and Breakfast
Bear and
remake?
Breakfast type. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was exactly my thought.
So
it's weird because
cool.
Bear and Breakfast actually just got their own pre-orders through I Am 8-Bit.
Right.
Speaking of, for all of you Neon White fans out there, definitely make sure to go to I Am 8-Bit in the near future.
Let's go.
Wink, wink.
Mm-hmm. It's live already, baby. It's there.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, just go to the near. I've already got mine pre-ordered. I know you did. Literally 5 minutes after I Am 8-Bit tweeted that they were live, I sent you a tweet. I said, "Hey, the pre-orders are live," and you said, "I've already got mine."
I was on that website at 11 a.m. my time. They had said that they would go up. They said they would go up at 9 a.m. Pacific, which is 11 a.m. my time. And it took them an extra like minute or two, but as soon as they went up, I pre-ordered mine. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that had to happen.
Nice. But honestly, with everything else going on, some of the other things I was excited for, I'm looking at this right now. I can't remember what Another Crusade was.
That's the Mario RPG style.
Oh,
game.
Of course.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah.
There's a lot. So Another Crusade is really cool looking. Again, very inspired by Super Mario RPG. Unfortunate that it's releasing in the same year as an actual Super Mario RPG remake. To be honest though, I think that this looks more faithful to Mario RPG Remake looks gorgeous, but it's very like clean. This one retains a lot of the sort of rough, visual style that the original game had. And I'm kind of digging it. I'm going to be curious to see like the story, the characters, the music. That's really what it's going to boil down to for me, but I was excited to see this because at least visually, I think they're kind of nailing it.
Yeah.
So
I like it. Like once you said that, all of a sudden everything, flooded back into my mind, but just trying to remember everything from LRG there was just so much, but it does look really cool. I mean, it was very clear that, even just looking at the UI, even if they hadn't specifically cited Super Mario RPG, which they did, it would have been you would have been able to very quickly recognize the inspiration because the game wears it very far down its sleeve. The UI, the isometric turn-based battles, which very much look like they have timed hits incorporated into the battle, which, is of course one of the key components of the battle system from Mario RPG. Even the way that the UI and the buttons kind of surround the character's head when it's their turn to go. Yeah, I'll definitely be wanting to check this out. I will admit the animation looks a little stilted to me, but I'm still interested in checking it out.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. I'll keep my eyes on that for sure. But yeah, that's in terms of the Nintendo Switch stuff. The vast majority of the stuff announced at LRG3 in general was for the Nintendo Switch. So we ate well. It was a great presentation. Tomorrow on the podcast, we will be breaking down our top 5 favorite announcements. Eric and I each constructed a list of our top 5 favorite announcements and ranked them. So that'll be on tomorrow's episode of All In a Nintendo podcast. So
genuinely hard for me to put that list together.
Yeah, man. It was a great show.
Hard for me to put that list together. But yeah, it was a really, really great show. Congratulations again to Limited Run Games on owning basically my entire wallet for the next year. Thanks a lot. But yeah, we'd love to hear what your guys' favorite announcements were. Make sure to reach out to us and let us know. But there are a couple other things that we did want to hit on here this week. Seth, is it possible we could get a soccer game from EA that's not literally just a copy paste of the previous year's title? Is it possible?
It's what's happening. Yeah. So, and we've talked about this, on the show before. EA's had this really gross practice for many years now, since like 2018, of taking their sports titles, notably FIFA, and just releasing it the same year as the Legacy Edition. Like literally charging full price for no, like it even says like on the listing, like there are no gameplay in hand, like it is literally the same game, just a roster update. And they've been doing that since I think 2018. And so now, and maybe this is as the result of this, in 2021, it was announced that EA and FIFA would be dissolving their licensing agreement. FIFA did one last game with them last year, and they said, the president of FIFA literally said, we're going to go like work with somebody else to make a better game. Like it's like literally what the president of FIFA was saying. So EA said, okay, well, we'll make our own soccer game. It's a little bit weird because EA still retains the licensing rights to like the stadiums, the players, stuff like this. So functionally, this will still be like a FIFA game. But it is a new series, EA FC series, starting with EA FC 24, and it will not be a legacy edition for the Nintendo Switch for the first time in, again, many years. It's going to be a revamped version of their Frostbite engine, and it's even going to have multiplayer built in that utilizes Joy-Con, which I don't believe the FIFA games ever have either. So they're at least putting some effort into the Nintendo Switch version of EA FC 24.
Yeah, and they're touting, like, honestly, like 17,000 licensed players and a ton of different leagues. So it's still going to be, it's going to be FIFA and everything but name. But I am interested to see how the game is going to be different. And I'm happy that EA, at least after half a decade, is finally going to update the soccer/football experience on the Nintendo Switch after literal years of cutting and pasting the exact same code onto a brand new cartridge and charging people full price for a roster update. So finally we're getting something new, and I'll be interested because this is a big deal. FIFA is the biggest like sports company in the world, and EA is of course one of the biggest video game publishers in the world. So this was a big news story in terms of the dissolution of this partnership. So seeing where EA goes from this will be interesting, but we'll see. We will see.
It's going to be really interesting whenever FIFA does get with whoever their new partner is going to be, and to see these two competing, that'll be really interesting. And do I expect that EA FC 25 is going to be a legacy edition? Yes, I do.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Probably.
Like now, the cynic in me, now that they've established like a new engine for Switch and everything, they're probably just going to go back to their old ways.
We've done all the work for the next half decade that we need to.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I hope that's not the case. I am hopeful, especially for people who are Switch owners who do
Yeah.
like to play their sports games like this.
Yeah.
You guys deserve better, and it's nice that it's actually for once earning its full price tag that these games have carried the entire time. So
Well, I just hope that it's not an absolute buggy piece of garbage,
yeah,
because
we'll see.
sports sims on the Nintendo Switch especially have unfortunately been the victim of that several times. I'm reminded of like WWE 2K22, which was an absolute mess, and other things like that. So it takes a long time to make a video game. So I don't know. We'll see how this new one pans out. But very quickly, BitSummit is currently going on over in Japan this week, and it's already in its second day. A lot of stuff going on. Sunsoft is over there, and we got a new studio announcement from friend of the show, Liam Edwards, the guy behind Curse to Golf. They just announced a new studio, and there's even a couple games that have already been announced. So, but all of that is currently going on right now over in Japan. So, if there's any big announcements that we think you guys should know about, stay tuned next week. We'll compile all of that, and we'll let you know all the biggest news from BitSummit. But like I said, it's the biggest indie video game show in Japan every year. It's being held in Kyoto right now. Tony Grayson, friend of the show, he's over there right now. A lot of people over there having a lot of fun. So if it's something you're interested in, check it out. But like I said, make sure to tune in next week to see if there are any big groundbreaking stories out of BitSummit 2023.
Yeah, we'll try to keep our eye on that, because it's hard, especially when it's like a Japan based event. It's tough over here in America to keep tabs on everything announced, especially when you don't know if like some of those things are even going to come stateside. So, but we'll do our best. We'll see if there's anything worth shouting out. We'll bring it next week. Also happening this weekend is Splatfest.
Yes.
Shout outs to Splatfest. So we'll see which ice
now
cream
people get
reigns
to
supreme.
Exactly. Yeah. Now people get in massive internet arguments over ice cream flavors. The 3 ice cream flavors that are currently up for debate, I guess, that are currently up for protection in the Splatfest are, what are they? Vanilla, mint chocolate, and strawberry?
Yep.
It's Neapolitan minus the chocolate.
Yeah, it's Neapolitan, except instead of chocolate, it's mint chocolate chip, which is kind of weird. But my wife and I are playing for Team Mint Chocolate Chip. We're excited. She's home for the weekend now. Her new job allows her to be off on the weekend, so we're gonna be off on the weekend together, playing some Splatfest. And I've already posted we have a Splatoon 3 game hub in the Discord. So I already posted in there. If anybody else is playing for Team Mint Chocolate Chip and y'all you see me online,
nice,
feel free to jump into our party and we'll play some Splatoon, man. So
I mean, it does make sense that, honestly, if you're gonna ask me, I think Mint Chocolate Chip should win, because what are people always saying in Splatoon 3 or in the Splatoon universe to say something's good?
Fresh.
That it's fresh.
Yep, it's true.
So, Mint Chocolate should honestly just win based on that. So, if you want to make sure that happens, join Seth this week, and I might even pop in for a few fights.
There you go. That's going on this weekend. But let's talk about some of these notable releases, my friend, before we say goodnight. I had a few cool games come out this week, including that one on the TV behind you, Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals, which we're doing a full indie showcase on the main podcast that goes live tomorrow. Links to the podcast are in the video description if you're watching this here on YouTube, and it'll hit the podcast feed if you're listening to that tomorrow. And we get really in depth and talk about this game, and we TLDR really enjoyed it. So
absolutely, yeah. Make sure to check out the brand new episode of All In and Nintendo Podcast, and which will be up, like Seth said, in your podcast feeds tomorrow. Oxenfree 2, The Lost Signals, be there or be square. I guess.
Sure. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. I'm cool.
We also got the Atelier Marie remake, The Alchemist of Solberg. At least I think that's how you pronounce all of those words. The only word, The Alchemist and remake, I guess, are the only words there that I am confident I pronounced correctly. The Nintendo Pals got this in our fantasy draft, and it's doing okay. I think it's at 75 or something like that. But out of sheer principle, I can't play it. But
I love Nippon Ichi Software, but it's like they're releasing a new game every week.
Yeah.
At this point, it is nearly impossible to keep up with their games. They just released the new Trials of Heroes like last week.
Yep.
It was only like 2 months since the last one of those.
Atelier Ryza just came out, that third one or whatever. That was in like May or something.
We drafted that one.
Yeah.
But but I love Nippon Ichi. I really do. But they're releasing stuff. Like even for a Switch developer, for a Switch publisher, even they're releasing stuff too fast. I just cannot keep up, even remotely.
At a dizzying rate.
At a dizzying rate. That's a very good word for it. But if you're a big Nippon Ichi software fan, that's out now. So go ahead and check that out. A game that I was actually super excited for that we found out about at the recent Nintendo Direct.
Right.
Was this Maniac, or was it Manic Mechanics?
Manic Mechanics. Yeah.
Manic Mechanics that just came out. Turns out it's $25.
Yeah.
But there is a part of me that does want to jump in and check it out. It, for all intents and purposes, looks like a mechanic car racing version of Overcooked. I guess there are some mini games or some party game style setup to where you put your carts together and then you actually race them. So it does look like a really cool setup, and I am interested to check it out. But that also came out this week. If I do get the opportunity to check that out, I will absolutely let you guys know how it is.
Nice. And the final one here that we wanted to shout out is Gravity Circuit, which looks really cool, man. That was put on my radar, I think, by Marty Estes from the Nintendo Dads. I think put that
sounds
one on
about
my
right.
radar.
Yeah.
And man, that game looks great. Like, it looks really great. I really want to play it.
Yeah, kind of like not necessarily like a Super Sentai, but like a Kamen Rider,
right?
Like that kind of vein, a throwback NES style, something like Panzer Paladin meets Power Rangers, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of like a Mega Man X kind of vibe.
Yeah,
to it.
Yeah. I can
Looks
definitely
great,
see
man.
that. Yeah, it does look really, really cool. So make sure to check that one out. Again, that's called Gravity Circuit. Currently on a little bit of a launch discount if it's something you're interested in.
Yeah. I think that's it, though. I think that's our notable releases for this week.
I believe it is. And I mean, honestly, between the Nintendo Direct, between LRG3, like my 2023 is done. I can't handle anything more, man. Yeah. I really can't. But let us know what you guys are up to this weekend. Let us know what you're playing this weekend. Reach out to us on Facebook and Twitter at All In Podcast. Make sure to check us out on Discord. We would love to have you in our amazing Discord community. Join that Splatoon 3 Game Hub. Join us in the spoiler zone to talk more about Oxenfree 2, stuff that we can't even say on the podcast. Make sure to join us in our amazing Discord and join that awesome community of absolute legends we have over there. But in addition to that, for those of you who are watching us here on YouTube, thank you so much. If you would, just, quick little recommendation, make sure to give a like and subscribe, hit the bell, and all of that good stuff so that you don't miss another video from us. Because in addition to these weekly news roundups, we also put out a ton of videos. Seth and even I've started putting out, I've put out one, but we put out a ton of other content for demos and games that we get to try out and all kinds of different content. So make sure you subscribe to All In, or to youtube.com/All In Podcast, so you don't miss any of it. But in addition to this show, in addition to the podcast and all the videos and stuff, you would think that would be all we have time for, but no, you would be wrong. We also have time to make awesome exclusive content for our patrons.
That's right. Patreon.com/All In Podcast, where folks tomorrow are going to get access to the round 2 fantasy draft. We did record it. It's fun. Go check it out. And we also produce 2 exclusive weekly podcasts for Patreon. Really good value for 2 guys. It ain't half bad. If you want to throw a few bones our way for our hard work, we really appreciate that. Thanks to everybody who does that already. And hey, it's completely for free to sign up for the 7-day Golden Banana tier free trial. You can go over there and check that out as well. And for our Triforce tier supporters, they get discounts on our merch at bit.ly/allinmerch. So you can get a shirt, you can get a mug, you can get a sticker, and we appreciate that. But if you don't have any bones to throw away, that's okay too. You can support this show for free. You can leave, if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave some comments. If you're on the podcast feed, you can drop some words, leave us 5-star reviews. I will shout them out on whatever podcast service you're listening to us on if it does offer those reviews. We appreciate that. And hey, that's free. So thank you guys so much. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. I mean, we really do. We've been doing this for a very long time, and we've had such an amazing response from all of you guys out there. So genuinely, thank you to all of our awesome legendary patrons, to everybody who has dropped words on whatever podcast service you listen to us on, or here in YouTube, or wherever you have dropped those words. Thank you guys so much for that. And to anybody who has just shared our content around this vast internet of ours, we want to give you a massive namaste.
Namaste. That's news, everybody. Thanks so much for hanging out. Lockleth and Bowza were here in the chat. I appreciate y'all for coming through. Hope y'all have a great weekend. Hey, tomorrow we again have the fantasy draft hitting the Patreon for everybody on there, and of course the main show goes live tomorrow as well. Links to the podcast and the Patreon are in the video description if you're watching us here on YouTube. They're in the show notes if you're listening on your podcast feed. Tomorrow we're doing the Indie Showcase on Oxenfree 2. We're doing the top 5 announcements from LRG3, and we're doing a 40-year retrospective to celebrate 40 years. It doesn't take us 40 years to do the retrospective, but it's retrospective.
It's literally going to be 40 years long.
Yeah.
Seth has been editing it forever.
Oh my gosh. On 40 years of the Famicom, which was a lot of fun as well. So got a good show for y'all tomorrow. Hope you tune in. And yeah, we'll see y'all next week. Bye-bye.
Have a great Friday, everybody.